doctors gave me 3 months to live. 3 different doctors told me that same thing.
The revolutionary new treatment that's killing cancer.
To this day, there's no trace of it.
With virtually no side effects.
And it just absolutely amazes me that medical science is just now finding this out.
Well, it's a miracle. We're going to tell you about the miracle. And we have, you know what Harry Truman said, Terry said, in Washington, if you want a friend, get a dog. Quote,
Harry was right.
The Wizard of Independence, Missouri. Get a dog. So, just to show you, I've got one. I have Dee Dee's Princess Maggie will be on the show today to show you something.
Yeah, well, we have to see her do the jump over the leg thing. But is she doing that or?
Honey, the last time she was here, she hid under the chair. I don't know what she'll do. She is a woman and she has a mind of her own.
Go Maggie.
Go Maggie. She's a feminist. Well, we'll see. Well, all right. Imagine a free cancer treatment with virtually no side effects. And it can be used at the same time as other treatments. Does it exist? Yes, it does, with amazing promise.
Supporters say sugar is cancer food. So if you cut out the carbs, you can actually kill off the cancer. And they have some amazing success stories to back them up. Lori Johnson has more.
Dr. Fred Hatfield is an impressive guy. He's a powerlifting champion, author, millionaire businessman with a beautiful wife. But he'll tell you his greatest accomplishment is killing his cancer, just in the nick of time.
The doctors gave me 3 months to live because of widespread metastatic cancer in my skeletal structure. 3 months. 3 different doctors told me that same thing.
It's a horrible, horrible feeling to have someone tell you that the person that you love only has 3 months to live and you're not going to be with him anymore.
While Fred was preparing to die, he heard about an anti-cancer diet, also known as metabolic therapy. With nothing to lose, he gave it a try and was shocked when it actually worked.
And the cancer was gone completely. To this day, there's no trace of it, and it's been over a year.
Although it wasn't easy, Fred stopped eating carbohydrates because carbohydrates turn into glucose inside your body. Cancer cells love glucose and need it so badly that if you stop giving it to them, they die.
And it just absolutely amazes me that medical science is just now finding this out.
Fred's recovery was not a surprise to Dr. Dominic D'Agostino. His team of scientists at the University of South Florida study metabolic therapy. When they removed carbohydrates from the diets of lab mice, the mice survived highly aggressive metastatic cancer, even better than when they were treated with chemotherapy.
We have dramatically increased survival with metabolic therapy. So we think it's important to get this information out.
And it's not just lab mice. He's also seen similar success in people, lots of them.
I've been in correspondence with a number of people, probably at least a dozen people, and over the last 1.5 to 2 years, and all of them are still alive, so despite the odds. And so this is very encouraging.
All cells, including cancer cells, are fueled by glucose. But if you deprive them of glucose, they switch to the alternate fuel ketone bodies, all except cancer cells. A defect prevents them from making the switch to using ketone bodies as fuel, and therefore cancer cells can only survive on glucose. All other cells can use either glucose or ketone bodies.
Your normal cells have the metabolic flexibility to adapt from using glucose to using ketone bodies. But cancer cells lack this metabolic flexibility, so we can exploit that.
People like Fred, who deprive their cells of glucose and fuel them with ketone bodies instead, eat what's known as a ketogenic diet. It consists of almost zero carbohydrates, but lots of natural protein and fat.
You can go online and there's just cookbooks and, it's clean eating, just very clean eating. None of the sugars, the salts, the trash food.
Natural proteins are ones in their original form, but processed meats like cold cuts and hot dogs are off limits because often carbohydrates have been added to them. Natural fats are in their original form, like olive oil, avocados, nuts, and also coconut oil. But stay away from trans fats such as shortening or margarine, which are man-made.
Some people are afraid to try the ketogenic diet because they think all this fat is bad for their heart. But more doctors are now saying natural fat is actually good for you, even natural saturated fat like coconut oil and butter.
Doctors like cardiologist Steven Sinatra.
Is cholesterol the major cause of heart disease? Absolutely not.
In his book, The Great Cholesterol Myth, he says the real cause of heart disease is inflammation, which comes from eating too many carbohydrates.
We need to coach our patients and empower them about the dangers of sugar. Unfortunately, they're not hearing that. They're hearing the converse, the dangers of fat. Fat is healthy for you, as long as you avoid trans fats.
So by cutting back on carbohydrates and eating natural fats and proteins, you could improve your heart health and even wipe out cancer.
Amazing. Our reporter, Laurie Johnson, is with us. Laurie, why isn't the medical establishment shouting this from the housetops? It's fabulous.
2 words. Drug companies.
He said drug.
Now we know how expensive this kind of research is, and who normally pays for medical research?
The drug
The
companies.
drug companies.
Yeah,
and
sure.
why do they pay for the medical research? Because they're usually testing a drug, and if the research goes well, then they'll make a whole pile of money on that drug when it's approved. Well, this is a diet. Who's going to make money off of a diet? So they're not testing it
The olive
to
oil
its
suppliers
extreme.
aren't going to have a cartel. The olive.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, talking about this cancer story, just a short time ago, I received word of a woman who had cancer of the salivary glands
Yes.
and was getting ready to have surgery, disfiguring surgery on her jaw. She went on the ketogenic diet, and now she doesn't have to have the surgery. And the ketogenic diet has been a godsend for children with epilepsy. Now, I've
Really?
already done a story on this. It's been a couple years, and for folks who didn't get to
Yeah.
see it, I went up to the Mayo Clinic and interviewed parents of a little boy who was having 100 seizures a day. Nothing was helping him. And then one of his doctors said, hey, maybe the problem is glucose. So they took him off carbohydrates, and his seizures stopped like that.
Incredible.
And now kids all over the country are on the ketogenic diet, kids with epilepsy.
At least 20 years ago, there was a diet that you did ketosis, and you had those urine strips, and
Right.
they had to turn blue, purple, whatever
Right,
it was.
yes.
But you just see if you're in, quote, ketosis. But as I recall, my joints got sore, and some bad things happened. It wasn't always sweetness and light with that.
Well, it's not real simple, and I have tons of information and lots of links on our website if people are interested in going on it. At first blush, I would say maybe you weren't eating enough fat. You know, a lot
Is
of
that
people
it?
think the ketogenic diet is all meat, but it's really a lot of fat too. And you don't have to go, you know, if you are dying of cancer or if you have epilepsy, then definitely a strict ketogenic diet would be right for you. But for those of us who are trying to prevent cancer, a moderate ketogenic diet has been proven to be very successful. I'm on that.
Are you?
I've had cancer and I don't want it coming
Come
back.
on, you look so great. You
Well,
had cancer.
thank you. My mom had a different kind of cancer, and so I'm at higher risk for that. So I'm on a moderate ketogenic diet, which allows for more carbohydrates than the strict ketogenic diet, but fewer than the average American eats. The average American eats about 60% carbohydrates, and a moderate ketogenic is about 25% carbohydrates.
What are some of the little hidden killers that are out there that we're not even aware of? You know?
Well, topping the list for sure are the trans fats.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, but I really don't think people are getting the message. Anything, you look at the label, anything that says hydrogenated, that's a trans fat. Those are molecularly just one molecule away from plastic, Your cells cannot communicate when you're eating trans fat, and they are in everything. And then we've also talked about the high fructose corn syrup, the sugar,
terrible.
which is
It's
in everything.
Well,
And
the
those
bread,
two
well, if
things
you're
are the
eating-
worst.
You're eating standard bread. They've got corn syrup in it. Everything's got corn syrup in it.
That's right.
Well, how do you? I mean, you've really got to be a detective reading all the labels.
Right. Well, you know, it's the same way with a lot of things in our society. I mean, it used to be you could just turn on the TV and watch whatever's on. Now you have to be more discerning.
That's right.
Used to be you could walk into the grocery store and just eat anything that was on the shelf. Now you have to be more discerning.
Well, we did a feature here and held up the cans of soup on MSG, which is an excitotoxin. Does that have any bearing on all of these things you're talking about?
The MSG and yes, they have come out with all kinds of research about how bad that is. And if you go on our website, cbn.com, there are a list of things that contain MSG, hydrolyzed yeast extract. The rule of thumb is if you don't know what it is, don't eat it. If it's a chemical name.
Butter.
Yeah.
All right, I got you. Olive oil.
But I do want to say, I have a lot of information on our website about the ketogenic diet, a strict ketogenic diet for people with cancer and epilepsy, or a moderate ketogenic diet for people who are wanting to prevent cancer. And you know how I was saying in the story there are no side effects? There actually is one side effect of the ketogenic diet.
Makes you thin.
You lose weight. You got it. You got it. Because that glucose, your body has to burn glucose before it burns fat. So if you've got all that glucose in your blood, it's never going to burn that fat.
You say it's the fat that keeps the joints swell. The joints get, with too many of these ketones, it's like the sludge in a furnace. You've got to burn it up cleanly. And it takes the fat to do that.
It sure does.
Okay.
And really, it's recommended that if you're going to go on the ketogenic diet, learn about it first. And again, I have a lot of links on our website where people can, read certain books about it and find all about it before they try it.
I've watched people that we love wasting away with cancer, and you're praying and asking God to heal them, and the healing doesn't take place. And that stuff is just, it's like a killer. And if this thing would kill cancer, that would be the most wonderful thing. I mean, what
Absolutely.
a boon.
I believe it, and that's why I'm on it myself, to prevent it.
All right.
I'm very inhospitable to cancer cells. If they want to come visit me, I am not going to feed them.
Kill them all. All right. Laurie Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, you can look up her website. What, Laurie Johnson?
It's actually cbn.com,
cbn.com.
and this story will pop up. And there are all kinds of links and information, cookbooks. You can even cook things like cupcakes and breads on the ketogenic diet because they use special ingredients. So for the kids who have epilepsy, that's especially nice for them.
My soup, my minestrone soup, has absolutely none of these nasty things in it, and it is so good for you. It also has a little olive oil, too. Terry, later on in this show, we're going to introduce Princess Maggie, and we're just praying she will behave herself today.
Well, you'll need to join us to find out whether she leaps over his leg or hides under his chair. We really don't know. But first, we're going to head to the CBN newsroom for today's top headlines, so don't go away.
You know, I've been watching the buying power of the U.S. dollar decline for over 40 years now, and that's proof enough for me. Everybody needs some wealth insurance, just as we need life, health, home, auto insurance. And this year brings back memories of 1979 all over again. An oil crisis, sky-high gas, food, gold prices too, but gold is trustworthy. The folks at Swiss America, where I buy my gold, call it private wealth insurance because gold protects your wealth and privacy, even if the cost of living spins out of control. Gold is the best wealth insurance policy on earth, and you can trust Swiss America. I do, and have for nearly 2 decades now. Why don't you get Swiss America's free wealth insurance DVD today? You'll be glad you did. And you can tell them Pat Boone told you to call.
Hello, I'm Terry Newsom. Did you know there are more than 148 million orphans in the world today? 148 million. But it was 3 little girls that taught me about the plight of orphans. 8 years ago, my husband and I spent nearly a month immersed in the daily activities of a Ukrainian orphanage as we waited to adopt 3 sisters. I saw firsthand the utter loneliness, the pain of rejection, and the overwhelming desire to be loved. That experience changed me forever. And out of it grew a ministry from my heart called Orphans Promise. Today, we're helping orphans and vulnerable children in more than 50 countries worldwide. Thousands of children are now in safe homes. They're being educated, and they're learning life skills. I'm asking you to join with me and become family to these children. Will you call the number on your screen right now? Because every child deserves a chance to be happy.
Friday. It's the end of the world. Or is it?
They don't say anything further about what will happen.
Hear why the Mayans believe that doomsday is right around the corner.
Some people believe this 5,125-year cycle will end catastrophically.
And why they're wrong. Plus, healthy alternatives for your favorite foods. Friday on the 700 Club.
And welcome back to the 700 Club. Few signs of progress in the negotiations between Republicans and the administration. And as the process drags on, some wonder if President Obama is really afraid of the nation going over the fiscal cliff. Paul Strand explains.
This fiscal cliff drama even brought Santa Claus to Capitol Hill at the behest of the group Catholics United.
My staff up at the North Pole are as concerned as I am about the fate of so many children and families and what will happen to them due to this childish squabbling here in Congress if it doesn't end.
The two sides continue to talk, but there's much pessimism a deal can be reached before the January 1 plunge over the cliff. Some are suggesting President Obama is calculating he's likely to come out a winner, deal or no deal. Like Colin Hanna, who floated the theory in the commentary, President Obama may want to go over the fiscal cliff.
He may be more willing to go over and therefore able, in effect, to carry off a bluff, whereas the Republicans don't really have a hand of cards that allow them to successfully pull off a bluff.
Because polls show the GOP will get the blame if there's no deal and everyone's taxes go up. But the president can then turn right around and propose this to the new Congress.
A tax cut for the lower 98% that would be very hard for Republicans to resist. What Republican who is always talking about the benefits of tax cuts and smaller government is going to vote against a tax cut that would help 98% of Americans and 98% of taxpayers?
Then Obama will have isolated the 2% of wealthier Americans he insists must pay more taxes. And even if all this fails, the Democrats would get all that extra tax money to spend from all Americans.
So they are in a commanding position.
So with all the cards so stacked against the Republicans, even some conservatives are saying GOP lawmakers should throw in the towel and avoid a horrible PR disaster. Like Weekly Standard editor Bill Kristol, who says, if we go over the cliff, there won't be damage to Obama's chances of second-term success. Quite the contrary. What Republicans will have done is to make Democrats the party of tax cuts and Obama a president fighting for economic growth. But even with that almost certain outcome, Hanna and other diehards still believe GOP leaders should fight to the bitter end. Hanna says they should just concentrate on huge spending cuts because higher taxes on the wealthy 2% will only raise a small amount of what's needed.
This 2% fight is actually going to solve only 8% of the problem.
He says without massive spending cuts, everyone's taxes would need to go up 60% to dig out of the deficit, and that would so depress the economy, America would plunge over a much worse fiscal cliff. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
It's kind of frustrating, Pat, because it seems like most Americans don't understand that the issue is not revenue, it's a spending problem that we have.
Well, of course it's a spending problem, and it's an ideological problem. What they need to understand very clearly is the president is an ideologue. He wants to redistribute wealth, and he wants to grow the size of government. He wants to absorb, like an amoeba, all the various. He's already taken over the good part of health care. He wants to take over the financial services. He wants to take over everything, and he wants to control it. What do you call that? It's socialism. But he wouldn't admit to being a socialist, but that's what it is. And he has an agenda Now, Karl Rove was saying in an op-ed today, he said, well, what the president is trying to do is set up the Republicans so they fight among themselves, and therefore the party goes into disunity at the next election, and Obama wins there. I don't think he thinks that way. I think he thinks ideologically. I must cripple the capitalist class. I must cripple the business owners. I must destroy free enterprise system in America. Now, he wouldn't admit it, but that's where he's going. And he said to Joe the plumber, I believe, in the Midwest, he said, we want to redistribute wealth. Well, that's what he wants to do. And so who speaks for the Republicans? Well, kind of like nobody. They're disunity. It's very hard for a speaker who has several hundred members, all of whom are independent. It's like herding cats. You just have a hard time doing that. Whereas the president is one man, he speaks with one voice. But in my opinion, the smart thing would be to give him 2% or whatever he's asking for and say, okay, now you've got your tax on the rich. Now the economy is yours. Now make it work. At which point of time he can't. And you throw the ball back at him. But also, they ought to go on television with well-produced spots, day after day after day, having some teenagers say, I just got a bill for $150,000 to study the effect of drug addiction on Chinese prostitutes. Dad, I don't want to pay for that. Why don't they keep doing stuff like that and build up anger and start showing what it is the the Democrats are trying to hold on to when they talk about spending? It is outrageous what we're doing. We're wasting money in bucket loads. Double, triple, quadruple, 5 or 6 times, sometimes 50 or 60 times duplication in various agencies. It is just outrageous. And yet the Democrats are trying to demagogue the issue and say, well, it has to do with the rich getting too much. The rich, if he took all their money away from them, it wouldn't even begin to solve this problem more in a few days. The problem is the massive spending and waste of the federal government. It's got to be reined in, and yet it's amazing. You've got people in Washington who won't face up to the problem. And folks, the fiscal cliff, what is the fiscal cliff? Well, the taxes are going to go up. Taxes on capital gains, taxes on dividends. It won't be the end of the world. We were paying them before. But it's the amazing thing, too. Watch this when you're listening. Where did those middle tax cuts come from? They were part of the Bush tax cut program, which included cuts in dividends and also cuts in capital gains. So it's been showed, all these people on television, these talking heads say, well, this were tax cuts for the rich. Have you heard it? How many times? Thousands of times. And now they're saying, well, you've got to defend the middle class tax cuts. Where did they come from? They came from the Bush tax program. Why don't people say that? Why don't they get the word out? Oh, it wasn't a Democrat program, it was a Republican program. The Republicans they're just getting outflanked. But at the same time, if you love this nation, if you love the future of your country, if you love your children, you're going to do something to keep this country from being destroyed by willful people who only think of the next election. They're playing games with your future instead of seriously getting down and saying, we have a serious, serious deficit problem. We've got to solve it, or this country will turn out to be the same as Argentina. We can't have it happen. So if you love your country, you love your children, you love your grandchildren, get busy and get on the horn and start letting your congressman know you're not going to stand this nonsense anymore. Flood the White House with calls and letters and say, stop this gamesmanship and get serious. Lee?
And Pat, they may want to let them know about this next story as well. We're learning today about new hidden fees in Obamacare. Every American will have to pay a $63 fee starting in 2014. It's to help pay for insurance for Americans with pre-existing medical conditions. It may not sound like a lot of money, but it means tens of millions of dollars in new fees for large employers, so they will likely pass it on to all of us. The new fees are expected to raise about $25 billion. The government says the fee is temporary. Famous last words there, but experts wonder how they can predict that. Congress will decide in 2017 whether to extend the fees. Federal regulations that were put on hold during President Obama's re-election bid could be America's new fiscal cliff. That's what some Republican lawmakers and business groups are warning. For months, federal agencies and the White House put aside dozens of regulations, everything from new rules on power plant pollution to workplace safety, even crackdowns on Wall Street. Now, critics say the Obama administration is quietly placing them back on the table. They say the president sidetracked heavy regulation during the campaign to avoid being labeled a power-hungry candidate who kills U.S. jobs. A Maryland school district has suspended its biometrics program after receiving pressure from the public and civil liberties groups. The superintendent of Carroll County Schools says the new palm scanner program is dividing the community, and that was not his intent. The Rutherford Institute called on the school system to drop the program. More than 50 school systems in the country use biometric scanners. They identify students using physical characteristics like fingerprints. Schools say the systems save time and money, but the Rutherford Institute calls them a stealth move on the part of corporations and schools to further entrench the surveillance state. North Korea did launch a satellite Wednesday on that long-range rocket. South Korea confirms it's orbiting the Earth right now, and world leaders say the controversial rocket launch confirms something else about the regime's new dictator, that Kim Jong-un is just as provocative as his late father. That may mean an even tougher life for Christians and those trying to reach the country with the gospel message. Ephraim Graham has more.
The message to the world is, don't mess with me. I not only have the weapons, I have the delivery capability now.
Many North Koreans publicly celebrated the country's successful rocket launch as fireworks ripped through the sky.
And it is regrettable that the leadership in Pyongyang chose to take this course in flagrant violation of its international obligations.
A U.S. State Department spokesperson has said Kim Jong-un has a choice to make. He can spend his time shooting off missiles, or he can feed his people, but he can't have both. His latest choice is an act that continues to be condemned from leaders around the world.
What we have seen since this president came into office is the building of an international consensus that includes Russia and China.
Meanwhile, human rights groups say North Korea is increasing its persecution of Christians under Kim Jong-un's leadership, and it's targeting those who help them. A recent report by Religion Today shows North Korea is sending a growing number of spies to China, searching for human rights activists and Christians helping North Korean refugees. The National Security Agency has taken over border patrols, and that's putting pressure on captured smugglers to disclose information about Christians helping defectors. But that's not stopping their work.
What they would say is, please don't pray for us to be removed from persecution, but pray for us to be faithful within it, because God is accomplishing something here that can't be accomplished any other way.
According to Open Doors USA, scrutiny of the brave underground Christians inside North Korea has increased during the last year. The group estimates about 50 to 70,000 Christians are living in horrific conditions in the country's labor camps. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
Pat, we fervently pray for those brave Christians in North Korea.
You know, Lee Harrigan policy, I was in the Marine Corps with the 1st Marine Division in Korea. I was stationed north of the 38th parallel, and we were up against the North Koreans and the Chinese. And you talk about failed policies. Our country was being undermined at the particular time by a group that were favorable to Russia and the communist cause. And we were forbidden to go. They kept talking about the Yalu rivers. It's kind of like a little creek up in the north. It's a dividing line between North Korea and China. And the Chinese would come across the Yalu and attack our forces and go back on the other side. And we said, well, we can't bomb north of the Yalu, like some horrible thing would happen. Well, nothing would happen except we would have won. And Korea was a peninsula that could have been very easily cut in half, in a sense, by armed forces. We could have squeezed off the attacking forces from China, and yet the President Truman, and maybe wisely so, didn't want to start a big war with China, and so he backed down. MacArthur said, "Let's go for it. Let's fight them and win." And the people in Washington said, "No, let's get a peace." So they went back and forth, back in a place called Panmunjom, and they negotiated, and finally they had a settlement where at the 38th parallel, that was the dividing point. Well, as a result of that, we allowed this dictatorship to be formed. There was a lieutenant colonel in the Korean Armed Forces who had been placed in power by the Russians. He was trained by the Russians, and they put him in, and what was his? Kim Il-sung, and he became like a virtual god, and then they've established one of the most repressive dictatorships. But the thing of it is about North Korea, they have a gross domestic product of maybe 25, $30 billion. That's about it. The whole country, that's it. I mean, a fraction of Microsoft, a fraction of Google, a fraction of Apple, that's the whole country. They're desperately poor, and yet we allow them to go forward, and the Chinese are sheltering them because it's a nice thing for the Chinese to have a client state that's giving the United States trouble. Well, what do? Well, the problem is we allowed it to happen. We allowed it to happen. You remember when MacArthur got fired and Truman fired MacArthur, and he advocated for us, and we didn't do it. But he said, and I say it again, in war there's no substitute for victory. If you don't want to have a victory, don't go to war. But we kept having stalemate. We fought to a stalemate in Vietnam. We fought in Korea. We fought over and over again to a stalemate. We've got the same thing in the Middle East now.
Yeah.
Not good.
Here we are today.
Here we are today, but this vicious dictatorship because we allowed it to happen. Yeah. Terry.
Well, moving on, while the stars gathered for an event last night to raise money for the victims of Superstorm Sandy, our Operation Blessing team was already on the scene. We'll bring you more from the hurricane-ravaged region of the Northeast next.
Christmas. This year you can make it a more joyful and meaningful holiday, filled with God's presence. 700 Club partners, this is the perfect time to make your celebration complete by helping people who are in desperate need. Your special donation to CBN will provide gifts like food and warm clothing, life-giving water wells, and even livestock that will help support families all year long. Look for this free Christmas devotional, Quiet Moments in His Presence. It's our gift to you to help you focus your thoughts on the true reason for the season, Jesus Christ. So spend some quiet moments in His presence this Christmas and give, because so many others need your help. You'll be a blessing, and you'll be blessed as well.
I started feeling pain between my spine and my shoulder blade. There was a sizable mass consistent with malignant cancer. That's complex. That's tough stuff.
To find out more about our unique treatment options for complex and advanced stage cancer, go to cancercenter.com. You'll be able to see our treatment results for many types of cancers and how they compare to national averages. You can also check for participating insurance plans. Cancer Treatment Centers of America is different. It's state-of-the-art medicine, unique treatment options, and a level of compassion that cannot be copied. Why? Our people. People who give you not only their expertise, but their humanity and the most well-organized, patient-centered care you'll find anywhere.
My strength came back. I began to become myself again. I'm so happy that I went to CTCA.
Every minute counts when you're fighting complex or advanced stage cancer, so please call or visit cancercenter.com today. Appointments are available now. Cancer Treatment Centers of America. Care that never quits.
They're good for high blood pressure. They're good to keep you healthy, and as Harry Truman said in Washington, if you want a friend, get a dog. This is Princess Maggie. She is a
Maggie, you are
she
a
is
princess, yes.
Irish Water Spaniel.
She's beautiful.
Isn't she beautiful?
She's beautiful.
All right, Mags, pay attention. All right, good girl. No, lie down. Maggie, lie down, please. You're not being obedient. Why is it these women aren't obedient? All right, lie down.
Excuse me.
Lie down.
Maggie, jump.
All right, no, all right, there, jump. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You're liberated, girl. You're liberated.
Yeah. Okay. Don't be a feminist. Now, come here, sit down. All right, Maggie, here, sit. Good girl. Now, I want you to jump. Here, jump. Out of girl. That's it. Jump. All right, back over, jump.
Look at you.
Oh, that's not a jump. Come on. Here, come on. Don't embarrass me. Every time you come on, you embarrass me. All right. Okay, is that oh, that's so. All you want to do is eat.
Say, well, of course, Dad.
All right. Come on, Maggie. All right, get it. All right, sit. Maggie, sit. All right, lie down.
Good girl.
Lie down. Lie down. Roll over. Roll over. Atta girl.
Good
That's
girl, Mag.
Atta girl. All right, come on back here. All right, jump. That's it. That's better.
Wow.
Okay. All right.
You're hungry today.
No, she's being good today.
She's well trained.
Well,
yes, I know.
Well, I've got a few more. Oh, don't cough on me, for heaven's sakes.
We can clean that suit.
We can we? You're a good girl. All right, one more time. Maggie, lie down, sweetie.
Maggie,
lie down.
see you.
Maggie, hey, pay attention. Lie down. Lie down. Oh, come off it. Here. Lie down. Down.
Look at the size
Lie
of
down.
her paws.
Lie down. Good girl. Now roll over. No, come on, roll over. No, here's the sweet. Roll over. No. Maggie, you don't understand.
Now you know, folks, what he does
All
with
right.
his free time.
Roll over, roll over. Good girl, all the way. She
Good
did
girl,
it.
Mag.
You're a good girl. Okay, that's enough, dog. Okay.
She says, I want more. Oh, there she goes.
She wants to play with Pete. All right. Well, it's been 6 weeks, since Hurricane Sandy hit the shore. But FEMA officials are saying that some people displaced by the superstorm may have to wait months before they can go back to their home. That's why Operation Blessing is on the ground, giving much-needed hope to one New Jersey town.
You just see your home all ripped up, or some have seen their homes in water, and it's just devastating because that's where you have your family, you have a lot of memories.
In the wake of Hurricane Sandy's devastating blow to the Northeast, one of the hardest hit, yet less publicized areas is Little Egg Harbor, New Jersey. Damage in this small community was among the worst in the affected areas. When the cry went out to help families in this crisis, Operation Blessing answered the call.
It's such a little tucked away little town that almost, I don't want to say forgotten, but almost a little forgotten town because they haven't had really anybody else in here to help them. And we just happened to be placed here.
People here weren't allowed back into their homes for days after the storm. When they returned to see what was left of their homes, they needed help clearing out damaged walls, furniture, and lifelong memories. And most of all, they wanted to salvage whatever they could. That's where Operation Blessing volunteers came in.
Before they even, throw anything out, they ask me, they double ask me. Very, very professional and very, the caring and the kindness that they are displaying is just unbelievable, wonderful.
They even told me, oh, thank you for letting me come in your house. And it was like, oh, thank you for being here. The feeling I got. The only thing I could honestly think of, it was like it was raining angels.
This means an awful lot to me. I will never forget it. They're cordial, they're kind, they've really been protective, like you have a friend. In this case today, I have many.
With your help, Operation Blessing will continue to meet the needs of those affected by Hurricane Sandy and others who have met unforeseen tragedies around the world.
All you folks that have donated, God bless you all, and I mean, it's the best thing that you could have ever donated to.
It's the kind of organization you want to support because they do help people. We see that firsthand.
I love that. It was like it was raining angels. Don't you love those people? I mean, they suffered so much, and they're so brave. And if we can help them, and we have, and we will help more, but that's what happens when you give your $20 a month or 65 cents a day, whatever it is, join the 700 Club, or you could give $1,000 or more. We're here. And the overhead is minuscule with Operation Blessing, minuscule. It's one of the best run charities in America. And the people who are the recipients of the blessing, it's not just a handout, it's a hand of love and compassion. And those people are our people who come in. They love the people who are hurting. And that man said that they thank me for letting us come into their home to fix it up. I mean, it's a great team, and they're out there in your name working for you. Terry, isn't that beautiful?
Well, you know, so often I think when a disaster happens, we all feel a great desire to want to do something that matters, but you're almost afraid to give, not knowing how much goes to administrative costs.
That's right.
How much, in this instance, you can give a designated gift for these people in the Northeast, and Operation Blessing not only is one of the first responders,
right.
but they stay the longest, and they will be there helping people in the weeks
it's
to
so
come.
efficient. I mean, the overhead, as I say, is minuscule, and everything else goes out to the recipients, and it's just tremendous. So 1-800-759-0700, or you can send a gift. What is it, CBN Disaster or Operation Blessing, whatever makes you happy. Okay.
Well, still ahead, we're going to tell you the origins of a Christmas staple. And then we've got some of your email questions. Patrick says there's a woman on TV that talks to the dead. The relatives of the deceased seem so relieved and joyful when they get to communicate with their lost loved ones. Does the Bible say anything about this practice? Well, we're going to tackle that question and more later on today's show.
On June 28, 2012, the United States Supreme Court voted to uphold the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. Health reform is officially law. It will help the uninsured get health care insurance and add significant new prescription benefits. If you are uninsured, having trouble getting or struggling to pay for health insurance, call now. The free health hotline is accepting calls. You now have affordable options with real benefits. Call now.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jason Buchwald. The cost of health insurance and the denial of coverage because of pre-existing conditions has been a serious obstacle to many uninsured Americans. But now the law has changed.
If you are uninsured, having trouble getting or struggling to pay for health insurance, call the free health hotline. All callers will get the Together Health Group Prescription Pricing Plan free. Call the free health hotline now. Get the health insurance and prescription coverage you deserve.
Call 1-800-348-8671. That's 1-800-348-8671. Call now.
Are you suffering with joint discomfort but can't find a product that gives you the relief you need? Then stay tuned, because the next 60 seconds will change everything. Because we're about to guarantee the first 100 callers a complimentary 2-week sample of Instaflex, the top-selling joint formula at GNC. Instaflex is a top seller because it's our most powerful joint formula ever. It can start relieving joint discomfort in just a few days. And now you're guaranteed to receive a complimentary 2-week sample of Instaflex if you're one of the first 100 people to call 1-800-916-5767. If lines are busy, try again. Great for your knees, hands, even your hips. Fast-acting Instaflex can start relieving joint discomfort in just a few days. And you're guaranteed a complimentary 2-week sample if you're one of this station's first 100 callers. Instaflex is available at GNC, Vitamin World, and Rite Aid pharmacies. But you can only guarantee your complimentary 2-week sample by calling now. 1-800-916-5767. 1-800-916-5767.
Welcome to Washington for this CBN News Break. The number of U.S. home foreclosures hit a 9-month high in November. Foreclosure listing firm RealtyTrac says banks repossessed over 59,000 homes last month. That's up 5% from November of last year. But the number of homes entering the foreclosure process sank to its lowest number since 2006 to about 77,500. Still, bank repossessions remain high and on pace to exceed 650,000 this year, down 800,000 from last year. The city of Amsterdam has banned smoking pot in school. A spokeswoman for the city says the move is necessary to stop a growing number of students from coming to class stoned. Pot has always been forbidden at school, but the country's tolerance policy has made it difficult to enforce that rule. The new law says schools and playgrounds are no-toking zones. Students and others who break the rule are subject to fines from police. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Pat and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.
If you're taking pills for type 2 diabetes and you're still not getting the control you want, call now or visit controlispossible.com. You have a chance to help control your blood sugar for yourself and for those who depend on you most. With your free Chance It Control Kit, you'll get facts about insulin and how it can lower blood sugar, a meal planning guide that makes sense of food labels, serving sizes, and shows how you can still enjoy the foods you love, an award-winning app to access nutritional information and find restaurants, plus a blood sugar diary to help track your levels and progress. Don't put off calling. Find out more about adding insulin to your type 2 diabetes treatment for yourself and for them. Call now or visit controlispossible.com for your Chance It Control Kit. It will give you better understanding on insulin and how it can lower blood sugar. Call now or visit controlispossible.com.
Why are so many individuals and groups across the country choosing the Avia Dental Plan?
Individual plan starts as little as $8 per month.
Members save 20 to 80% off high-quality dental care.
Everyone qualifies, and there's no waiting or limits on visits to the dentist.
Call now and save $20, plus get 3 months free.
Call now and you may be able to save $20 and get 3 months free. 1-888-431-CARE or visit aviadental.com.
Friday. It's the end of the world, or is it?
They don't say anything further about what will happen.
Hear why the Mayans believe that doomsday is right around the corner.
Some people believe this 5,125-year cycle will end catastrophically.
And why they're wrong. Plus, healthy alternatives for your favorite foods. Friday on the 700 Club.
Well, it's almost Christmas, so this holiday season, Americans will spend hours getting their homes ready for Christmas. It's amazing. All these boxes, you kind of like have it all. It comes in boxes, then you put it all out and have little perfumes and things, and it smells nice. Well, no matter how many lights aboard a tree, or if you prefer angels to an inflatable Santa, no decorating job is complete without stockings hung by the chimney. Why do we do that? Ace Collins tells us why.
Ace, I've always loved running down on Christmas morning, looking underneath the Christmas tree, but realizing I can't open the gifts yet because no one else is up. So I beeline to the fireplace and the stocking. Where did this whole tradition come of hanging socks on the fireplace?
1,600 years ago. It used to happen because people had to wash their socks every night and then hang them on the fireplace. And when they hung them on the fireplace, they dried overnight and they put them back on the next day. Well, a poor family in what we now know as Turkey was doing this, and 3 daughters hung their stockings by the fireplace. Their father was very sad because he was going to have to sell one of the little girls because to raise money for dowries for the other two, because you couldn't be married unless you had a dowry. Well, that night, a wonderful bishop named Nicholas, that we know as St. Nicholas now, who Santa Claus is based on, heard the story. He was in town, went by and tossed a coin into the stocking to save the daughter.
And he had prayed, right? The father had prayed.
Oh, the father had prayed that God would intervene so he wouldn't have to sell the daughter. Well, as the word got out, other people started hanging out stockings as well, hoping that they too would receive an anonymous gift from a visitor they didn't know.
And those were small stockings, what people wore. Today, they seem to be supersized. How did the stocking get so huge?
Well, children in the 1880s and 1890s started figuring out the bigger your stocking was, the more stuff could be crammed into it. And so they kept getting bigger and bigger stockings and hanging them by the fireplace so they could get more and more gifts.
Now, when I was growing up, all the other kids got candy and toys in their stockings. I got an orange and an apple every single time.
But you were going back to the old European custom, your Eastern European custom of giving fruit and nuts in stockings, because those were very rare treats that you almost never got in the wintertime. So children treasured those and wouldn't share those with others.
I didn't treasure it. I wanted the candy. Are there any spiritual little ditties that we can get from the stocking?
Yeah, an empty stocking represents potential, because there are poor people everywhere that have nothing for Christmas. And you look at them as an empty stocking and share blessings anonymously with them, as St. Nicholas did. You have an opportunity to restore the Christmas spirit and answer prayers through your generosity this year.
Isn't that wonderful? If your daughters don't have a dowry, put the stockings up and some kindly person will drop a Krugerrand in them.
Yeah, it'll take more than a Krugerrand to bury your daughter off today.
My son was offering to bribe his daughter instead of a wedding. I'll give you
The old ladder alongside the house, right?
Yeah, that's right. But no way, I'm not eloping. I'm having a wedding. Okay.
Well, Ace Collins has some wonderful stories of the true tradition and history of some of the things that we celebrate at Christmas time. His book is called Stories Behind the Great Traditions of Christmas. It's available where books are sold, and I think it's a lot of fun to read through some of those with your family and understand why we do some of the things we do.
All right,
I want to answer some email questions.
Real quick.
This is Patrick, who says, there's a woman on TV that talks to the dead. The relatives of the deceased seem so relieved and joyful when they get to communicate with the dead. My pastor said this is wrong, but she seems like she's helping so many people. Is it wrong, and is there anything in the Bible that backs up my pastor's opinion?
Oh, there sure is something that's wrong. Have you ever watched the CBS show, The Mentalist? I mean, it is a scam of the first order. And I'm talking to you, and I'm seeing something, Terry, in your background, and you had a mother, didn't you? Oh yeah, and she was from another country, and she got sick, didn't she? And then you start telling me all the stuff about her, and you say, man, isn't this guy amazing? He's revealed all my secrets. He's a con man, and it's a big con. Now, if it's real, it's even worse, because what you're hearing is a familiar spirit, and the Bible talks about familiar spirits. Get a concordance and look up familiar spirits. And the Bible warns us of having communication with spirits that peep and mutter and not to turn to the living God. If you want to know about the future, you want to know, it's in the Bible. If you want to know, God will show you. He will show you what's going to happen, and he'll show you all you need to know. But this looking into the occult is dangerous, leads you into demon possession. It is very dangerous. It opens the door into possession by demons. Not cool. All right.
This is Becky, who says, my boyfriend broke up with me after 3.5 years of being together. He wants to be friends for now and tries to say this doesn't necessarily mean we'll never be together again. He just doesn't want to be in a relationship right now. I don't know if I should try to move on or hang on to hope and faith. I try to talk to God, but hear nothing. My mom says I need to read my Bible. Where should I start reading?
I think you ought to start reading that part in 1 Corinthians, which says about purity. And, you know, what is relationship? Does that mean they're living together and having sex? Oh, what does relationship mean?
Well, I don't know. She just says 3.5 years of being together.
Well, what does being together mean? I mean, it used to be I was dating. Mm-hmm. Now it means I'm living in the same house having sex.
Or not living in the same. I mean, she also doesn't say. Yeah. She also doesn't say how old they are.
But more and more, I'm in a relationship. That's what it means. It doesn't mean I'm dating. Mm-hmm. But yes, go on. You're not married. Say goodbye and, you know, leave off the key, get out the back jack and all that stuff, and set yourself free. Go get somebody else. Don't hang around. I mean, this thing's not working, so go someplace else. But get married. You know, kids today, young people are not getting married. They have all the benefits of marriage, which is the sexual relationship, without the commitment. Big mistake, ladies. Big mistake. If men can get sex and not have any responsibility with children and all the rest of it, they'll have it. Why not? So, I mean, you give yourself what is so precious, and they take, but what are they going to give in response? Yeah. They take it to dinner occasionally? Oh, that's nice. Okay. Next question.
This is Matthew, who says, I feel
I sound cynical.
Well, No,
It's true.
I mean, there's truth to that, yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Men need to have a commitment, and
Well, yeah, and sexuality is not intimacy. We were meant to have intimacy with each other in relationship that has permanency and
that's right.
commitment.
Well,
to
commitment
it.
has to do with looking after the future, looking after one another, caring for each other in sickness and health.
Coming together and vowing to be.
That sickness and in health until death do us part. All right, what's next?
This is Matthew, who says, I feel so pressured at my job. I've been there for 7 months, and the boss says I should know more than I know for how long I've been there. Do you have some advice or a scripture that will help me to have confidence, focus, and understanding?
I'm not going to give you a quick Bible verse, but what I will tell you to do is to do everything you can to learn about your business. If it's a corporation, read the annual report, read the filings they file with the SEC. You can get those things on the internet, and every corporation has to file these things. Learn about the business. Learn about what makes profit. Learn about the products they sell. What do they do? What is their unique selling proposition? And think about those things. Don't just come to work 9 to 5 and punch into the time clock. I'm gonna get my paycheck. If you want to advance, find out what's going on. And then you'll be in a position to move forward. And the Bible says you see somebody who's diligent in his work, he will stand before kings. Diligent to find out what's going on. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today's program. Tomorrow, get the truth about the so-called Mayan doomsday. I think it's been misappropriated. I mentioned the other day what it was, and somebody said, I feel so relieved you finally told me what it was all about. Alignment of the planets in our solar system with the center of our galaxy. That's what they forecast. Whether that happens from an astrological standpoint, I have no idea, but that's what it is. Well, we leave you with Stephen Curtis Chapman singing Joy to the World.
Christmas. This year you can make it a more joyful and meaningful holiday, filled with God's presence. 700 Club partners, this is the perfect time to make your celebration complete by helping people who are in desperate need. Your special donation to CBN will provide gifts like food and warm clothing, life-giving water wells, and even livestock that will help support families all year long. Look for this free Christmas devotional, Quiet Moments in His Presence. It's our gift to you to help you focus your thoughts on the true reason for the season, Jesus Christ. So spend some quiet moments in His presence this Christmas and give, because so many others need your help. You'll be a blessing, and you'll be blessed as well.